السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده، لا أمة بعد أمتي، لا كتاب بعد كتابي، لا شريعة بعد شريعتي. أما بعد، فيقول ربنا جل وعلا في كتابه الكريم: لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم. فإن تولوا فقل حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. We always begin with the praise of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most kind, the most merciful, the benevolent. We send peace, salutations, salawat upon Imam al-Anbiya, Sayyiduna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma fasalli wa sallim wa an'im wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. My dear respected ulama, seniors, brothers, friends, sisters in Islam, and those who are listening by the different mediums and the different streams. Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to enter into these first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Allah takes a qasam, and Allah takes an oath in the Quran, wal fajr wal layalin ashar, that by the oath of the dawn and by the oath of the 10 nights. Ulama have written, Allama ibn Kathir rahimahullah has made mention that these 10 nights that Allah has taken an oath and Allah has taken a qasam for, most likely it refers to the first 10 nights of Dhul Hijjah. These first 10 nights and 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, they are so meritorious, they are so virtuous, that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said that ma min al-ayyam, that there are no days from any of the days that you experience, al-amalu salihu ahabbu ila Allah, that good deeds are more beloved to Allah min hadhihi al-ayyam, than these days, يعني عشرة Dhul Hijjah, that the first days of Dhul Hijjah. In fact, ulama, Allama ibn Rajab rahimahullah, he makes mention and he poses a question and he asks that these first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, are these more virtuous, or are the last 10 nights of Ramadan and 10 days more virtuous? None of us who are present and sitting here will doubt the merit, the fadila, and the virtue of the last 10 days and nights of Ramadan. And he applies and he answers the question and says that in fact, when it comes to the day, that means from sunrise to sunset, these first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, they are more virtuous in the sight of Allah than the last 10 days of Ramadan. The nights of Ramadan, they are more virtuous than these nights. But in terms of the day, Sahaba asked that, O Nabi of Allah, that actions in these days, are they so meritorious? وَلَوْلَا الْجِهَادُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, that what if a person goes to strive in the cause of Allah, is it more virtuous than to go and strive or to do a'mal in these days? Nabi alayhi salam said, وَلَوْلَا الْجِهَادُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, that in these days, despite the merit, the virtue, the sanctity of jihad, but to do noble deeds are more virtuous in these days than even that. إِلَّا رَجُلٌ يَخْرُجُ وَلَا يَرْجِعُ بِنَفْسِهِ وَمَالِهِ. The only one person who is more virtuous than the one doing good deeds in these days is the mujahid who goes out and he doesn't return with his soul or his wealth. In other words, his entirety is sacrificed. So Allah has given us this opportunity that we are well truly into these days of the first Ashara of Dhul Hijjah. We make dua that Allah allow us that we benefit, we understand the merit and the virtue of these days and these nights, and we exceed in the a'mal, the opportunity to do good deeds. Last week, we started what was the first part of the journey of Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, and what in essence was arguably, probably the most meritorious journey exclusive for ibadah that Nabi alayhi salam undertook. This mammoth and this epic 8-day journey, where there were many highs, there were many lows, there were difficulties, and many a matter unfolded, some of these which we touched upon last week. And we left off at the point where Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, along with Sahaba radiallahu anhum, having departed Medina, had reached Maqam Sarif. Maqam Sarif, as mentioned last week, was that place where Sayyidatuna Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, when camping there, she was crying in the tent. Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam went in and he appeased her that Aisha, that this experience that you are undergoing of the natural monthly cycle, that this is something that Allah has rendered obligatory on women, and it is nothing to be concerned about. They remained at this point, and it was from this point that Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, just from these outskirts of Makkah, now made the journey to enter Makkah Mukarramah. Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, on Sunday, the 4th of Dhul Hijjah. The 4th of Dhul Hijjah, just about the time of Dhuhr, Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam entered Makkah Mukarramah. This was no ordinary entrance. This was an entrance that was dreamed about, it was yearned for, it was wanted, and it was waited for many a night and many a day. A person who is made forcibly to leave their home. We can see what is unfolding. May Allah ease the hardship of our brothers and sisters in Palestine and Gaza. Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam and Sahaba are forced to leave Makkah. In our minds, perhaps the thought might be there that this is Hijaz, this is Saudi, and today we travel by speed train, a journey of maybe some 2 hours, and it's all one and the same. That Makkah, Medina, what difference? But in that time, and the world, what it looked like, it was almost, we could say that these were two different countries. The residents of Makkah, they were a different personality type. They resided around the Kaaba, the Baytullah. They were from the Quraysh, Banu Hashim. They were a proud people. They were a people who came from a very high merit and status in terms of lineage. Because of the centrality of the Baytullah, trade routes used to pass. Allah took the oath, لِإِلَافِ قُرَيْشِ إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. The journey and the route in the winter and the summer, where the Yemeni tribes and the residents of Yemen, a large empire belonging to Habasha, to Abyssinia. And these tribes would travel and they would pass through with their wares and pass through Makkah. The tribes of Sham in the north, the Mediterranean, when they would trade, they would pass through Makkah. Makkah was a hub spot of business, exposure, trade. Call it a business capital. That's why tonight in Isha, we heard the verse, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنْ لَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ أَن تَبْتَغُوا فَضْلًا مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ. That there is no harm for you that you seek bounty when you are doing Hajj. Because in the days of Jahiliyyah, Hajj was not merely just a ritual of worship, but it was worship along with the culmination of entertainment. That's why Allah forbid and forgive us. It almost looks like the Ummah is reviving the consumerist nature of Hajj. That's almost like what Hajj has become to some degree. In the days of Jahiliyyah, this is what Hajj, this is what Makkah looked like. And as a result, the Quraysh were people who are proud. They were attached to their homeland. And when they were made to leave and Hijrah took place, it was no ordinary affair when migration and Hijrah took place. It was so magnanimous, and it was an event of such magnitude that there was nothing considered to be more virtuous than Hijrah and migration. The most virtuous action that a mu'min could do was to migrate from Makkah to Madinah. That's why the hadith of إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ was uttered and said by Nabi alayhi salam on this occasion of Hijrah. It is known as Hadith Qais. There was one Sahabi, there was a woman resident in Medina. He wanted to get married to her, and she made the condition that I will not marry you unless you migrate from Makkah to Medina. Everybody is migrating because this is the instruction of Allah. But Qais, this individual, he decides to migrate because of his attraction to this woman. Nabi alayhi salam sees him in Medina. And then he says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. That's why the Hijrah reference comes in this hadith. That everyone is making Hijrah because it's the most noble matter. And you making Hijrah, but your motive and intention is to appease a woman. And know that فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى دُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ إِمْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا. Or a woman he wants to marry, فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Then his Hijrah is motivated and rewarded for that reason. So Makkah is a place of value, a place and a climate of such a nature that when Sahaba come to Medina, they cannot acclimatize. There was a unique fever that used to overtake the Sahaba who migrated from Makkah to Medina, just because they could not acclimatize with the climate in Medina. They would lie and they would utter poetry. Bilal radiallahu anhu, he has this fever has overtaken him, and he just starts uttering poetry. هل أبيت ألا ليت شعري هل أبيتن ليلة بواد ذي أذخري وجميل. Something to this nature. He said that I wish that my flesh in this state, I wish that my flesh and my hair can just lie in one valley of Makkah and let the sense of the grass of Medina just touch my body. That's all I want. That's all he would cry for. So Makkah Mukarramah, the migration of it was not an ordinary matter. And they leave Makkah. And then they never come back. They leave by force their homes, their wealth, extended families. Some who could not migrate, they leave and they go to Medina. Makkah is the ultimate goal, it's the target. Nabi alayhi salam sees a dream some years later and sees that they are making Umrah. He sets off with Sahaba radiallahu anhum in the sixth year of Hijri. They reach Hudaybiyah and hear the Quraysh hear of their coming, and they blockade the path that you are not allowed to enter Makkah. And an event, many matters take place in Hudaybiyah. Uthman radiallahu anhu is dispatched, and the news comes that he has been martyred by the Quraysh. Nabi alayhi salam takes bay'ah on the hands, Sahaba, all of them, that we will avenge for the death of Uthman. Of course, it was a rumor. And Allah speaks about that. لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ. That those who took the bay'atul ridwan under the tree, Allah is pleased with them. And conditions are made. Resolution is drawn up. Quraysh tell Nabi alayhi salam and Sayyidina Umar and Sahaba that you can come back next year, but you will come back on our conditions. Literally speaking, in our terms, you will have a 3-day visa. You will enter like this. You will be unarmed. You cannot engage. You cannot engage with your family members. You will come in, you will do Umrah, and then you will leave. They come back the next year. Sayyidina Umar is looking at Nabi alayhi salam, agreeing to all these conditions. He's saying, "Oh Nabi of Allah," Sayyidina Ali is called. Nabi alayhi salam tells him that write this and sign on my behalf. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu writes there that I am signing on behalf of Muhammadur Rasulullah. The Quraysh see this, they tell him that you should erase from this Rasulullah, because we don't believe in him and his message. And listen to this carefully. They saying we don't believe in him. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu says that it's unbecoming of me that I can erase this. Nabi alayhi salam says, Ali, show me where is this. And he instructs him to erase this. Sayyidina Umar is looking at the conditions of this. He's saying, "Oh Nabi of Allah, how can you even start negotiating?" Nabi alayhi salam ignores Sayyidina Umar. That just write, and all of the clauses in here looked against the Muslims, against Islam. Yet Nabi alayhi salam agrees to this. Umratul Qada takes place the next year. They abide by the conditions and they leave Makkah after 3 days. And then after Umratul Qada, the next year the conquest of Makkah takes place. Quran declares this, "Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina." And now they enter Makkah victorious. And as they in Makkah, Umrah is made one more time. But this is still partially some sensitive matter that requires negotiation. Because it's not that you're entering with ease. Nobody knew what will unfold in Makkah upon the conquest. But nonetheless, Makkah is conquered. They go back to Medina. There's some level of great appeasement. But when they're entering for Hajj, this is a different experience. There is no conquest, there's no Umratul Qada, there's no impediments, there's no borders, there's no boundaries, there's no visas, there's no passport control. They are all coming back home to the home that they knew it was. Can you imagine what this entry was like? That's why ulama had written the likely hikmah and wisdom that Nabi alayhi salam entered almost at midday, was because the entire Makkah and the Ummah could see that this is a grand entry. And that entry takes place from Shubayka. Those who have been in Makkah, familiar with the terrain, you will know that this is from a mountain that starts coming down and descending into the valley. Nabi alayhi salatu was salam at this time, on Sunday, the 4th of Dhul Hijjah, 8 days after this momentous journey, now enters with Sahaba radiallahu anhum. There's no stop, there's no hotel, there's no refreshments, there's no freshening up. All of this directly into the haram. Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam goes with Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And this time, it is a tawaf unlike the previous tawafs. At the time of Makkah Mukarramah, the conquest, Nabi alayhi salam is making tawaf of the Baytullah. He's on his camel and he's making tawaf. And he's wearing a black imamah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. and he's holding his asa, and 360 idols are there. And Nabi alayhi salam is pointing, mu'jizatan, ja al-haqqu wa zahaqa al-batil, ja al-haqqu wa zahaqa al-batil. And this ishara, every idol is just crumbling and broken. Nabi alayhi salatu was salam, on this occasion, it is coming to a Baytullah which is free of shirk. The announcement was already made last year. There's no kuffar, there's no shirk, there's just tawheed of la ilaha illallah. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam enters and they start beginning tawaf. Can you imagine this sight of these Sahaba who are now seeing Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam? Imagine the emotions and the experience. Imagine in the shade of the Kaaba, where Ammar bin Yasir come and ask, "Oh Nabi of Allah, such atrocities. My mother is martyred, Sumayya radiallahu anha, the first woman martyred in Islam, in such a brutal way that a spear is penetrated through her private organ." Imagine these Sahaba, the emotions and the thoughts. Ammar bin Yasir, her son, imagine the thought at this time. Some time ago, he's sitting in the shade of the Kaaba under the atrocities of the Quraysh and asking, "Am hasibtum, O Nabi of Allah, when will Allah's nusra come? When is it coming?" A question in all our hearts. Where's Allah's nusra? Nabi alayhi salam is lying in the shade of the Kaaba. Who's asking the question? The one whose mother has been martyred. His father Yasir is lashed beyond recognition. He himself is only seeing atrocities, and he comes to the Nabi of Allah, "Oh Nabi of Allah, when will Allah's help come?" And how much more do we tolerate? Nabi alayhi salam sits up and repeats the ayah, "Am hasibtum an tadkhulul jannata wa lamma ya'tikum mathalul ladina khalaw min qablikum." You think Jannah will just come like that? You think this is a life of entertainment, of dessert, coffee shops, holiday, shisha? Is this life of just futility, just a life of building a career? Is that what this is meant to be? Nabi alayhi salam, who is he talking to? A man who his entire family, a young man, is sacrificed. And then Quran says, "Massathum al-ba'sa wad-dharra," that those previous nations, before Allah's help came, Massathum al-ba'sa, this was annihilating hardship befell them first. Ba'sa, Quran would have been enough if it just said this word. But it said dharra, and even greater hardship was zulzilu. They were shaken at the core. They were shaken at the core. حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله. Then Allah says, "Allah," then listen now. Only when you are in despair, when the ummah has nowhere to go, no one to turn to, no resort, no political party, no government, no help, no army, zero. Then Allah says, "Allah," now you listen. You see, the word in Arabic is what? A harfut tanbih. You know what is harfut? Allah, that you give your ear to what Allah is saying here. Only when you reach that state of despair, when you are crying in sajda, tears of blood, that, "Oh Allah, we don't know what to do." Inna nasrallahi qareeb. That when your state becomes like that, then know the help of Allah is near. Nabi alayhi salam is telling Ammar bin Yasir, these Sahaba are entering Makkah. Fatima radiallahu anha is with her father in Hajj. The same shadows of the Baytullah, where the intestines of a camel are thrown on Nabi alayhi salam. This young Fatima radiallahu anha wa ardah comes and take this off, and she admonishes Abu Jahl and Abu Sufyan. Imagine the emotions, what they're feeling at this time. That they're entering Makkah in this state, and now the Baytullah is theirs. That's all it is. And they enter Makkah in this way. Nabi alayhi salam starts making tawaf. Sahaba are hanging on to every amal and every action. Everything. They just absorbing. And as they're going around the Baytullah, Nabi alayhi salam sees one person, that he is yaqudu rajulan. He has one person on a leash, and he's dragging him, pulling him on a leash. So Nabi alayhi salam stops. What are you doing? Why are you dragging him in tawaf like this on a leash? Ya Rasulullah, innaha nadhrun. And this is a vow that we took. Like a person takes a vow that this and that, if that happens, then I will do this. I will give so much in charity or something like that. He says we took a vow of something, and that vow was that I was going to drag him around the Baytullah. Nabi alayhi salam said, this, an-nadru mimma yubtagha bihi wajhullah. Then listen, another and a vow is not this in our deen. Inna hada min amali shaitan. This kind of things, of chains, dragging, pulling people, abuse, hurting, these are from the actions of shaitan. They have nothing to do with our deen. What is our deen? Inna deena yusrun. Our deen is simple. It's uncomplicated. Some of us assume with the complexities that we have in the ummah, that our deen is complicated. Our deen is not complicated. Every one of us here know that our belief in Allah, do we understand the concept of Tawheed? To believe in one Allah. That's it. There's no complication in that. Do we believe the finality of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We understand that concept. There's nothing complicated. Do we understand we have to make salah? We understand it. That's what it is. It's 5 times a day. That's what you do, and that's what we continue. We give zakah. We understand some rules it will apply. Not all of the details, but I understand at some point I may or may not have to give. Do we understand what Ramadan is obligatory upon us? We know what to do, the simplicity of fasting. We understand Hajj, and when it comes, we understand its rituals and carry it out. This is our deen. There's nothing complicated. The academic matters belong in the 4 walls of a classroom among academia. But when we take that out of there and we start discussing things which are beyond the scope and what is beyond what our deen requires from us, it leads to complication and confusion. Our deen is simple. It's uncomplicated. Inna deena yusrun. Deen is simple. Yurid Allahu bikumul yusr. Wala yurid bikumul usr. Allah doesn't want complications. So Nabi alayhi salam sees this man. He's dragging him. That this is not our deen. Where you see people lashing themselves, brutally doing things in the name of love and mahabbah for some. This has nothing to do with our deen. It's reminding me of, forgive me, there's one Hakim Shuf. Some of you know him. Those who don't know, should ask those who know. And if you Google him, you'll find it. There's one famous man in Pakistan. I shouldn't have said Pakistan. It's like somehow everything goes back there. He's got some ajib wazifa. He stands in front of the mic, and then he does some actions, and amazing, he blows in the mic. And then through the mic, the whole crowd, intelligent doctors, engineers, professors. If this only happened in Pakistani villages, would have been okay, but it happens in the UK. The whole crowd stands with a hand on the head, and he blows in the mic. And amazingly, Pakistan doesn't need a medical health care system. You just need to put this man outside the hospitals. That's all. Miraculous. This, Nabi alayhi salam said, Inna hada min amali shaitan. These things, our deen is uncomplicated. It doesn't need, deen is simple, it's uncomplicated. Nabi alayhi salam reprimands him, tells him, take it off him, make him stand up, and just do tawaf normally. That's all it is. There's nothing, all these things, it muddles our mind about deen. There's nothing complicated about our deen, about Sharia. Tawaf continues. Nabi alayhi salam comes to the Rukn Yamani. He rubs his hand on it. And as he walks towards the Hajr al-Aswad, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Nabi alayhi salam proceeds from there to the Maqam Ibrahim. From the Maqam Ibrahim, they go to Sa'i, to Safa Marwa. And as Nabi alayhi salam enters into Safa Marwa, the news starts filtering around Makkah that Rasulullah sallallahu is in the Haram and he is making Umrah. And the entire Makkah start converging on the Haram. Everyone, they start converging. Ulama have written in the books of Hadith, it is mentioned that people were lining Safa and Marwa and they are pointing, Hada Rasulullah, Hada Rasulullah. People for the first time are laying their sight on the blessed being of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Young, children, old, men, women, and they are just standing. In riwayat, it is mentioned that mothers were carrying their children like how you carry your child on your shoulder for them to get a glimpse of something. That just look at the vision of Nabi alayhi salam. And the entire Makkah is like this. And people are coming. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is walking. And he doesn't keep anyone around him. He just continues through this crowd. He makes Safa, he does Sa'i. And as he's leaving Sa'i, one person comes to him and he asks him a question. This question and this person was Rabi'a bin Malik bin Ju'thum. This, in fact, it was Malik bin Ju'thum. When Nabi alayhi salam was making Hijrah, during Hijrah, as Nabi alayhi salam and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu had departed Makkah, Quraysh had sent people after them to go and capture them. One person was on a horse. As he comes near Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi alayhi salam makes dua and looks at him. And suddenly his horse collapses that he cannot go further. And he's just stuck. He's absolutely stuck and stagnant. He says, O Nabi of Allah, make dua that Allah release me from this. I won't attack you. I won't capture you. So Nabi Isa makes dua. And as he gets released, again he attempts. Again the same thing happens. Again the third time it happens. Until he goes back and he convinces those whom he goes back to say that there is something about them, that they have a nusra and a help that we cannot do anything about. The person who asked Nabi alayhi salam the question as he's leaving Sa'i is just this same Malik bin Ju'thum, who now accepted Islam and is radiyallahu anhu wa ardah. Despair in the hope of hidayah for even the biggest enemies is not the trait of a mu'min. This Malik bin Ju'thum is from the Quraysh and the leadership of the Quraysh. He was a young man at that time. He's from the leadership of the Quraysh. And Allah gives him hidayah, he accepts Islam. And he's standing outside Sa'i waiting for Nabi alayhi salam. That, oh Nabi of Allah, I have one question. That tell me about this idea about doing a'mal, about taqdeer. Why should we do amal if everything is already decreed? The decree of Jannah, Jahannam pre-decreed before a person enters this world. Look at the depth of this question. A profound question. Why should we do a'mal? What's the need for this? Nabi alayhi salam tells him, فَكُلٌّ مُيَسَّرٌ لِمَا خُلِقَ لَهُ. Then listen, the amal, each person, those a'mal will become easy for them for what Allah has decreed for them. What does it mean? That you should know that whatever trajectory of amal you are on, Allah has decreed that for you, and potentially there is a good outcome for you. That's why you're getting tawfiq of a'mal. So do it anyway. Do it. Because this is a symptom and a sign that Allah has decreed good for you. They leave Sa'i. Nabi alayhi salam leaves from there. And Umrah is now finished. They go to a place called Maqam Abtah, which in today's time is somewhere of the vicinity of Misfala. Those who know the area, the King Fahad Gate, when you come and go down, just in that vicinity. Nabi alayhi salam goes and they set up camp there. They spend 4 days there. Which 4 days? This is the 4th of Dhul Hijjah, 5th, 6th, 7th, and of course on the 8th they depart. These 4 days are all spent in Maqam Abtah. This Maqam Abtah was far enough from the Haram, and listen to this carefully. In those 4 days, Nabi alayhi salam did not go to the Haram for Salah. How amazing is that? When our package says you're going to Aziziyah, say no. Alhamdulillah, I'll pay 30,000 extra. I'm staying in Makkah until the last. But you can't get in the Haram anyway because it's so busy. Nabi alayhi salam stayed in Maqam Abtah and did not go for one Salah to the Haram. Rifqan lil Ummah. Imagine each Salah Nabi alayhi salam had to go. So all the Sahaba would have went, and then to come back, and then to go and come back for 5 salawat, 4 days in a row. Can you imagine the hardship in this? Hajj is a matter of ease. Later on in this, some matters will arise, which denote the same thing. Nabi alayhi salam stays in Maqam Abtah. These 4 days were an amazing 4 days. Why? They're not going to the Haram. There's no Hajj. There's no A'mal. They're there. Nabi alayhi salam is there. People are having access to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam like they have never had access before. Ulama have written in the books of Sirah, it's mentioned that Nabi alayhi salam, there was free access. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was among the people. That's it. He was there. There wasn't any formality. There wasn't any blockade, barriers, entry criteria, appointments. Abu Juhayfa radiallahu anhu, he said, I was a young boy of 10 years old at this time. I recall with my own eyes that I observed that when Nabi alayhi salam came out of his tent, people would go, they would rub their hands on the hands of Rasulullah. They would rub their hands on his face. They would rub it on his arms. And they would draw from the tabarruk of Nabi alayhi salam and rub it on their bodies. He said, I vividly remember seeing this with my own eye. I can feel the coolness of the hands of Nabi alayhi salam that I myself as a 10-year-old boy touched. I remember this. He said people were just around Nabi alayhi salam, going, just drawing the barakat and the blessing. Just the vision. Imagine one sight of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a person is just afforded that, we know the feeling, the experience that a person enters Medina. The green dome in itself has no significance. It's a building. It's a structure. But just the sign and just the vision of this is enough for a person, for the hair on the back of their neck to stand. That's all it is. And when you're in the presence, we're seeing the gate that holds the body of Rasulullah. And we have an experience. Imagine just seeing the physical body of Nabi alayhi salam. And they're seeing Rasulullah firsthand, and every single day is like this. In the books of hadith it is mentioned. Imam Bukhari mentions this. Bilal radiallahu anhu. Whenever Nabi alayhi salam used to make wudu in these 4 days, he would take the water out, the leftover water. He would come out of the tent and he would start sprinkling this water. He would start sprinkling this water. And people would wait for these droplets of the leftover water of Nabi alayhi salam to fall on them. Those who did not experience the water directly, balana sahibihi, they would go and take the moisture of the person next to them and rub it on their bodies. Can you imagine 4 days like this? People are just drawing from the tabarrukat. I'm not talking about khurafat and other time. I'm just talking about this incident and drawing tabarruk like this. That's all I'm just mentioning the metaphor and clarifying. And Sahaba like this. And people are drawing just personal company from Nabi alayhi salam. It's like, sometimes we have imams, ulama, seniors in our community, or people like me, our elders, and many times they're busy and they are in their formal work, and it's difficult to have access to them. We might engage with them, but it's limited, restricted. But then there's other times when they're outside of a formal setting. There's no work. They're not there. They're not doing. There's no work. You're just there sitting somewhere. Might have gone out, maybe in some function somewhere, something like that. There's a different engagement with that. It's a different level of drawing benefits. Imagine 4 days like this with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. During this time, after a few days, in these 4 days, Ali radiallahu anhu comes. Amazingly, he had not joined the Hajj from Medina. Why? Because he had been deputed and sent to go and collect there was some taxes from some tribes, which Nabi alayhi salam entrusted him, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, few other Sahaba, to go and collect all of that. And then they were to meet in Makkah. So they came, and when they were in Abtah, Nabi alayhi salam and Sahaba in these 4 days, and Ali and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, other Sahaba, they had returned. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he came, he met Nabi alayhi salam, and then he went to go and look for his wife, Fatima radiallahu anha. In these 4 days, there's ikhtilaf and a difference of opinion among historians, ulama, fuqaha, muhaddithun. What kind of Hajj did Nabi Sallam perform? Was it ifrad, Hajj only? Was it tamattu, or was it qiran? Qiran means to join one ihram and to make umrah and Hajj together. Ifrad means to make only Hajj and no umrah. And tamattu means to make an umrah with an ihram, then to come out of that ihram, and then on the days of Hajj to enter another ihram for Hajj. So there's a big fiqhi discussion around this. In any case, many riwayat indicate that many of the Sahaba had come out of ihram, and because they were making tamattu, so they had made umrah, and Nabi alayhi salam told them to come out of ihram. So Fatima radiallahu anha, she had become aware that Ali radiallahu anhu had arrived. They're a young couple. She's sitting in her tent, and she had beautified herself. Her husband was gone for many days, and she's sitting in her tent, and he opens the tent, and he sees her. So a young man, after many days, he's seeing his wife, and he's taken aback by her appearance and her beauty. But he's a little in doubt. This is Hajj, Ihram, what's going on? So he quickly goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Say, "O Nabi of Allah, I went there, and Fatima is all dressed up very beautifully. Is she doing the right thing?" So Nabi alayhi salam says, "Ali, I gave them instruction, they're out of ihram." So Ali radiallahu anhu opens the tent and he goes inside, and he sees Fatima radiallahu anha the second time when he enters, and she has a miswak in her mouth. And he is so taken aback by her attraction that by default he starts uttering poetry. Last week we spoke much about the women. Romance is a big sunnah. Ali radiallahu anhu walks in, he sees his wife, and by default he just starts singing poetry, not of the roses are red kind. Huniti ya'ud al-araki bi-thighriha ama khashiti ya araku araki law kana ghayruki ya siwaku qataltuhu ma faza minni ya siwaku siwaki. He starts addressing the siwak. to sing poetry for your wife? It's a sunnah. Not just to put your number plate. Just change your number plate, a personalized plate. Just tell the whole world. I mean, we don't know. It's your wife's name, secretary's name. What do we don't know. Who is it? So the ability, can you see Ali radiallahu, the ability to express love and emotion in this journey of Hajj, Ali radiallahu anhu teaches them. To express this type of poetry was normal. It wasn't something that was limited, restricted. Imam al-Asma'i rahimahullah, it reminds me of one incident. This incident doesn't have a sanad. It's just in the books of poetry. And Imam al-Asma'i was a great muhaddith, but he was a great poet and linguist from Kufa. So he said one day he emerged from Kufa, he was going somewhere, and he went on the outskirts of the city, and please don't ask for a sanad for this. He saw inscribed on one rock the following couplet: Aya ma'shar al-ushaq billahi khabbiru idha halla ishqun bil fata kayfa yasna'u. He said he saw this inscribed that, oh, you group of people who have experienced love, ma'shar al-ushaq, from ashiq, those who know what love is, billahi khabbiru إذا حل عشق بالفتى كيف يصنع. He said, just give me information for the sake of Allah, that when someone is hopelessly in love, what must he do? Right? He saw this couplet written, somebody wrote it. It's like someone is hopelessly in love. What does he do? So Imam al-Asma'i is a poet himself, and he saw this. So he felt compelled to respond. So he inscribed on the next rock beneath it, يداري هواه ثم يكتم سره ويخشع في كل الأمور ويخضع. He said, you should conceal your temptation, desire. You should hide your love, and just make sure that you don't fall into haram temptation. So he inscribed it and he left it. After a few days, he came past and he saw a response to this. And inscribed on the rock was, فكيف يداري والهوى قاتل الفتى وفي كل وقت قلبه يتقطع. Like, how is it possible? Like, for someone who is infatuated with a woman, how do you expect him to conceal his love and to contain it? It's like young men, you ask them, say they want to get married, they come to the father, to the family, to someone, she is the right one. So how do you know? So I made istikhara. So you made istikhara. So what did you do? So next morning, I definitely saw her in the dream. It's like, what else are you going to dream of? If you are thinking about, you infatuated, the mind is only on one thing and nothing else, what do you expect to dream of? So he said, well, how can you conceal this? What must you do? So Imam al-Asma'i came a few days, he saw this, so he responded. He said, إِذَا لَمْ يَجِدْ صَبْرًا لِكِتْمَانِ سِرِّهِ فليس له شيء سوى الموت أنفع. Like, if you can't contain your love, then there's only one solution. In other words, there's this woman you love, you can't have access to her. Then if you can't contain that, there's only one solution. And look, this is not a life story and a moral story. It's just an anecdote. Okay. He said there's no solution except that you must kill yourself. That's it. You rather die. What he meant is like not kill yourself, but you rather be dead. So he wrote this, and then he came the next day, and he saw a corpse lying there. سمعنا أطعنا ثم متنا فبلغوا سلامي إلى من كان بالوصل يمنع. Said, you gave us instruction, we listened, we obeyed, and just give salam to the one whom we couldn't get to. It's not a life story. Please, any young people sitting here, don't listen to this. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. So one day, so he came in the tent, and he said this couplet, that he's seeing the siwak in the mouth of his wife, and he's saying, the glad tidings to you, you siwak, that you have entered into the mouth of my wife. أما خشيتي يا أراك أراكي Anybody understands the language will appreciate this. He said that, don't you fear that, oh Arak stick is the siwak stick, that don't you fear, oh Arak stick, that I will see you, that the husband of Fatima is going to see you, that you are touching her flesh. لو كان غيرك يا سواك قتلته. Because anybody else, I would have killed them. ما فاز مني يا سواك سواكي. That no one has ever succeeded in battle, O siwak stick, with Ali, except today you have defeated Ali. This sunnah of poet, this is in the middle of the desert, in the middle of Hajj. Husband and wife today go for Hajj. If they come back and they haven't had a major fight and argument, that is a kamal. Ali radiallahu anhu is there in Hajj and he is singing poetry of love to his wife. Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, somebody comes to him and says that, oh Nabi of Allah, we need you to come and visit one Sahabi, is very ill and very sick. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, during Hajj, he started experiencing heart palpitations or similar. This Hajj, it had it all, everything. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, so they come to Nabi of Allah, they say that Sa'ad is asking. So Nabi alayhi salam goes to visit him. And he comes to Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, sees Nabi alayhi salam, he starts crying. He said, why are you crying, Sa'ad? Allah will give you shifa, you in Hajj. He said, oh Nabi of Allah, I'm just fearful that Allah gives me death here and my hijrah will not be accepted. That we made hijrah, we went there, and I came here for Hajj and it looks like I will not survive this. What if Allah takes my life here and my hijrah is not accepted? Nabi alayhi salam places his hand on the chest of Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, and he rubbed it. And he said, Sa'ad, Allah has given you, there's a long life for you still to live. There's still a long life. And he rubbed, Sa'ad radiallahu anhu said, when he narrated this incident, he said, my entire life after this, I could still experience the coolness of the hand of Nabi alayhi salam on my chest. That experience never left me. Sa'ad radiallahu anhu then said, oh Nabi of Allah, I have many daughters. He was a person of great wealth, but he only had daughters. So he said, oh Nabi of Allah, it looks like I'm not going to survive this. What shall I do with all my wealth? Can I give it all away in sadaqah and charity? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to him, Sa'ad, it's better you leave something for your family. Leave some inheritance, leave some wealth for them. So Sa'ad radiallahu anhu said, in that case, maybe I will give half away and I will keep half for them, which they can distribute. Nabi alayhi salam said, maybe more. Leave more for your family. So Sa'ad radiallahu anhu said, okay, maybe I'll leave a quarter. Maybe I'll leave a third. So Nabi alayhi salam said, in that instance, leave a third. وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ. That even this Sa'ad, to leave and to give in charity at your death, a third, even this is a lot, but it's acceptable. لَأَنْ يَتْرُكَ. That you leave your family wealthy after your death, that they do not have to beg and ask of others. That is better that you leave them wealthy than them begging from others. Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, he's here in Hajj. Nabi alayhi salam gives him a lesson, a financial lesson on the plains of Makkah. That Sa'ad, better you leave wealth for your family that you leave them in poverty that they have to beg from others. A person at times might assume that anyway it's their wealth and they should put it to the best use for themselves in akhirah. Why not give everything away in sadaqah? Nabi alayhi salam rectified this thought here in the plains of Abtah. Nonetheless, just to move on. So Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, he survives this. He goes back. He lives for another 50 years after this incident. Sometimes the best treatment is the batin treatment, the internal treatment. Our hearts need more internal treatment than external treatment. The arteries of Ruhaniya that are blocked need greater treatment than the real external arteries that are blocked. He lived for 50 years. Allah gave him 43 children after this. He was the Sahabi who led the first army into Iraq, to Qadisiyah. That famous incident where Sahaba walked over the water with their horses. This same Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, who was lying almost on his deathbed in Makkah, that Sa'ad radiallahu anhu led this army miraculously over the water that the hooves of the horses did not get wet. Allah has given every person potential. We all have potential. Every one of us that Allah is, we should not. Sahaba never gave up on life. They never gave up on others. Listen, he was there and Allah took such work from him that it was unparalleled. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu. In any case, these 4 days of Abdah end, and now the days of Hajj start. Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, he dons his ihram and they depart for Mina. When they come to Mina, those who have been for Hajj, we are familiar with the a'mal of Hajj. When they come to Mina, there's no real a'mal to do on the first day except to be present in Mina. So what did Nabi alayhi salam do on this day? Let's socialize a bit. Literally speaking, in some sense. He calls Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr, we came to Mina. There's many people here. There's many people here that we have not engaged with, we have not interacted with, they have not interacted with us. It's an opportunity to familiarize ourselves and to build the foundations of the Ummah more. Nabi alayhi salam on this 8th day did not resort to one corner exclusive in ibadah. Abu Bakr, come with me. And they start going from tribe to tribe for personal discussion, introduction, and personal meetings, just to go and engage with the Ummah. This breaks down barriers. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he had many noble qualities, but one of his most well-known traits was that he was a master in lineage. He was a master in lineage. He knew, family trees and lineage like no one else. He even knew the lineage of horses. The Arabs were famous for their Arabian horses and horse breeds. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was familiar with that. He was familiar with family trees. And he would go and he would, with Nabi alayhi salam, and then they would, they say, this is a sunnah, the art of small talk. The art of small talk. It's an art. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was a master in this. He would go, he would start the conversation. Which tribe you from? Where you from? Oh, this one. Oh, that one. We know that, it's like in every family there's that one uncle. They know everybody is asking who's that one to tell you whose family connected where to what. It's like he knows everybody in the whole ummah. That's it. You just need to know, phone him, ask him, his black book is full. He's got the number. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was like that. He knew everyone, he knew lineage. He would break the art of small talk. That's why to know our nasab and our lineage, the young people who are listening and growing up in this community, listen clearly and properly. You don't become your own individual when you turn 18. You're still the same. Your blood color doesn't change. You are still the same person. Your family will be your family. You can't give up your family. They are who they are. They will be who they are. You should get to know your extended family. This society teaches us isolation. You must live on your own. You should be on your own. Be independent. Don't have a dependence. Don't know who your extended family is. I haven't been back home for the last 20 years. I can't even speak my mother tongue. What a shame that is, because we break up all ties We are now Australian. Ask this society on what we're losing in the process. Abu Bakr, our deen is to know your nasab. It is to know your father's nasab and his lineage, your mother and her lineage, who it was. The hadith is full of this. That silatul rahim, the enjoying and maintaining of ties, is a grand sunnah and amal of our deen. Allah will ask us on the arsh in hadith Qudsi, it is mentioned that silatul rahim, the enjoyment of ties, figuratively, is attached to the arsh of Allah. That's what it is to maintain ties. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu would go. It introduced Nabi Ali. This entire 8th of Dhul Hijjah is only spent like that. Engaging, talking, teaching about Islam, expanding on things, maintaining this ummah, building the ummah. And then the 8th of Dhul Hijjah finishes. And the day of Arafat arrives. Nabi alayhi salam told Sahaba that, oh my Sahaba, al-Hajju Arafah. That Hajj, the core and the essence of it is Arafah. That's what it is. The whole Hajj is based around this day. Nabi alayhi salam coming to the plains of Arafat, he takes a ghusl just before he arrives to Arafat. And they set up camp. Nabi alayhi salam, as the camp is set up, he calls Jabir radiallahu anhu. During Hajj, there were some young Sahaba who were given the task and the duty to look after the reins of the camel and to shade Nabi alayhi salam whilst he was on the camel. Jabir radiallahu anhu, he, Bilal radiallahu anhu, Ali radiallahu anhu, and 1-2 other Sahaba whose names will come up, they were shading Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Nabi alayhi salam tells them just before midday that, Ya ayyuhan nas ansitu, that, oh people, you on the plains of Arafat, you be silent, because you don't know, maybe you will not see me after this again. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. In Hajjatul Wada, there were many khutbahs that took place over various days. From the books of Sirah, some of them overlap in terms of content, what was said where, whether it was in Arafat, in Mina, the first day, the second day. And therefore, ulama generally, when mentioning this, mention it as a whole, that some of it was said here, some was there, and all of these are narrated as being part of the khutbah of Hajjatul Wada. So Nabi alayhi salam announces there that Ana inna dima'akum wa amwalakum wa a'radakum alaykum haram. That let me tell you first up in this khutbah that you who are listening here, you are listening to a constitution of your deen. And the first line of this constitution is what? Inna dima'akum, that your blood and your wealth and your a'radakum, your personality, your person, your being, your dad, your status, all of these are sacred. The blood of another person, the wealth of another person, and the dignity of another person, this is all sacred. What does sacredness mean? Ka hurmati yawmikum hada. Like the sacredness of this day of Arafat. Does any of you need to be explained that what is the sacredness of this day? That know the sacredness of this day, the blood, the wealth, and the honor and dignity of your brother is sanctified like this day of Arafat. How you will not break that sanctity? Don't step on the blood and the wealth and the dignity of your brother. Fi shahrikum hada. Do you know which month you in? You are in Dhul Hijjah. Do you know the sacredness of this month? You do. Know that all of those three things are like sacred like this month. Do you know the city which you are in? Do any of you doubt that Makkah is sacred? Then know that the blood and the honor and the wealth of your brother is just as sacred as this. What a profound opening statement. They say in any speech, the opening line is the most profound line that you will say. Nabi alayhi salam teaches us the art of communication, not just for the sake of being not for the sake of being articulate, but for the sake of the gravity of the message that is being given here. That listen, the wealth of another, the blood of another, the dignity of another person is sanctified. How can you just usurp that which is sanctified? The blood of your brother, can you just usurp it? Does murder, killing mean nothing to you? Usurping the wealth of your brother, unjustly, the money you owe, the money that is stolen, the inheritance that is not paid, the debt that is unpaid, just the declaration of bankruptcy, but because it was written off legally, do we think that this will disappear and Allah won't take us to account on the day of Qiyamah? The system, the nizam might sign it off. But in the court of Allah, everything will have to be declared. The dignity of my brother, and brother means it includes every person, women. The dignity that someone undermining the status of another, just speaking bad, yeah, but it's not ghiba. But he does have that quality. She is like that. Nabi alayhi salam said, the person, I guarantee Jannah for that person who protects what's between his jaws and between his legs. أَضْمَنْتُ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. I'm a guarantor that that person will enter into Jannah. And today the Ummah cannot control their tongue. They cannot control their fingers, what they type, who they lash out at, what they say, because there's no accountability. It's a free reign. You should voice your opinion. Say what you mean and mean what you say. That's what we taught. Nabi alayhi salam opens this first line of the khutbah, that know that all of dignity of every person is protected. You have no right to trample on this. And then the next thing that starts is what? What starts? What follows this? Again, I'm mentioning the sequence of this varies in different riwayat. But the next thing that starts is about what? Women. فَإِنَّمَا هُنَّ عَوَانٍ عِنْدَكُمْ. Allah has made them prisoners beneath you. What does prisoner mean? She left her home. She left her father. She left what was familiar to her. She left the support of her brothers. She left the security of her home and the life that she knew. And she gave it to you. She gave it to you. You men, male. We don't like to hear this. We shift in discomfort. The only hadith that we know, Allah forgive, is that, Nabi alayhi salam said that if there was anyone who was instructed to make sajda and prostrate, it would have been the wife in front of the husband. Therefore, you must listen and obey whatever I say. Where did we learn this? We only conveniently adopt what we want for our convenience. We forgot. Just on this journey when Nabi alayhi salam said, Ya anjasha rifqan bil qawarir, that these women, they are traveling, treat them like crystal glass. Don't even let the camel go fast, because they are so delicate. Give them that. Where did we learn this? Did Ali show us? In this whole journey, last week I mentioned it, in the whole journey, Yom Safiya was about what? The entire entourage stopped because Safiya had a tear in her eye and could not travel. The whole Ummah's Hajj stopped for one woman. And the husband of today, the man of today, he doesn't have one good word. He can't even talk in a proper tone to his wife. Not even in a proper tone. Nabi alayhi salam in that khutbah said, let me tell you what your rights, you know what right you have over your wife? Nothing, except that her chastity belongs to you. Her chastity, and she doesn't let in your home the male who you don't like. That's all that belongs to you. That's your right. That's your haqq. That's all it is. That's what she owes to you. She doesn't, I'm not giving a fiqhi mas'ala. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying either. But in terms of rights, she doesn't have to lift a teaspoon. Should she do it? Is that part of the sunnah? Of course, that is part of it. But are you entitled to it that you can make demands? Allah forbid. Say no, Quran says, وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. No, you can. Darb. What did Rasulullah say? When this ayah was revealed in Medina, the women of Medina came to Aisha and all the Azwaj al-Mutahharat. They tell Nabi Sallallahu he must, this what I'm saying now, tell them, ask Nabi of Allah to address all the men of Sahaba because some of them are misinterpreting this. Nabi Sallallahu came, gathered all Sahaba, that, have you all misunderstood this ayah? Then let me tell you that khayrukum khayrukum li ahlihi. That the best of you is the one who treats his wife the best. You treat your wife the best, you will be the best. But the man of today, he needs to show his masculinity. I'm the man. I'm in charge. I make the rules. What I say goes. My way or the highway. That's how my life is. The man, we have to show the masculinity of the ummah. Where did this come from? In the khutbah of Hajj, it's not just as a nice, convenient frame on the wall to adorn our home. It's not just for that. There's meaning behind this. We have to reflect deeply on this. And then Nabi alayhi salam said further that clothe them what you clothe. What are their rights over you? Clothe them what you clothe. Give them to eat what you eat. Maintain the same financial and standard of life like how you give yourself. But the husband, he buys himself the latest mobile phone, and his wife always gets the leftover broken one. If I have, see, as much as it's amusing, ask the ulama in our community, I'm not one of them, but ask us what comes to our phones and our doors and what comes in calls we get. He doesn't give me enough money. He doesn't maintain me. He doesn't, I'm not saying, yes, there has to be moderation in this. They can't be, obviously, they cannot, there's moderation. But not looking after basic bare necessities, not fulfilling huquq and rights. Nabi alayhi salam said there, and he gave on the plains of Arafat the lesson. Shouldn't this have been, let's lay the charter for the next how many years till Qiyamah? Let's lay that charter. Let's talk about politics. Let's lay about leadership. Let's talk about this. This is Arafat, hundreds and thousands of Sahaba. But yet, Nabi alayhi salam chooses to talk about the rights of women. First up, there must be something. And then the second thing, ألا إن كل ربا موضوع تحت قدمي هذا. After women, riba. I'm asking, it's like we are plagued with all of this. Riba. No, this is a Western country. That riba doesn't apply here. That somebody gave one fatwa there somewhere. Nabi alayhi salam said, this is not riba, the economic system, the monetary system, fiat, blockchain, this. I hear this every day. That one fatwa there from that one person. That one person, we won't follow them in anything else. But the riba fatwa we take. The riba fatwa, we take it with two hands because it's convenient. But everything else, no, it's on dalal. It's misguided. But the riba, Nabi alayhi salam, and in there, Rasulullah said that. Because the Arabs had a legacy of riba. They were businessmen, trading for years and generations. They knew riba more than us. That's what they were doing. If we think these caravans that were going from Hijaz and Yemen, like 5 or 10 camels, that's not the way they did business. They were doing import and export on a far larger scale than we can ever imagine. We bring one, how many containers you bring? Yeah, bring 20, 40 foot containers a year. It's like, that's great trade. These caravans used to consist of thousands of camels that used to go in one caravan. Go and look today even across northern Africa. Still how these trade caravans move. Thousands of them, not hundreds. Thousands of them. And these used to represent countries, villages, tribes. People used to trade on their behalf. They had sophisticated trade mechanisms. And riba was part of it. Nabi alayhi salam, they said that my own family, Banu Abbas, all of the hereditary riba, as of today, we will not claim 1 cent. It's finished and it's done. لَكُمْ فَلَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُمْ. The capital you invested, you take that out. But anything beyond that, لَا تَظْلِمُونَ وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ. You cannot make dhulm. The dhulm that comes with riba, that's it. End of the story. Khalas. The days of Hajj will come. And the woman who's being abused in a home, that won't stop. The riba that's there, it will not disappear. Hajj will come year after year. Nonetheless, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam goes and makes Dhahar Salah in Masjid Khayf. He tells Sahaba, here in Masjid Khayf, 70 Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, they made Salah here. After Dhahar Salah, Nabi alayhi salam comes out of Masjid Khayf, or where the tent was, and he makes dua. Sahaba say, Nabi alayhi salam made such a dua that this was the only time that we saw the armpits of Nabi alayhi salam. That's how high he raised his hands. Sahaba say that we couldn't stand for few minutes in the heat of the day of Arafat. Rasulullah stood the entire time from Dhahar, Asr, right until till before sunset, only making dua. Arafat is about dua. It's about dua. That's what it is. Nabi alayhi salam made dua. And as the sun starts setting on Arafat, as the sun starts setting, those who have been on the plains of Arafat, may Allah take us all over and over. You will bear testimony that the sun does not set on a greater day than the day of Arafat. There is never a sunset that you are more regretful of than the sunset of the day of Arafat. That every other day the sun sets. But on the plains of Arafat, when you watch the sun seeping down, it's that panic and chaos that, oh Allah, the sun going down, just don't let me leave here unforgiven. Anyone who has witnessed this will bear testimony to this. And as that moment is occurring, Nabi alayhi salam calls a Sahabi. He says, go and announce here in the plains of Arafat, Inna Allah qad ghafara ahla Arafat wa ahla al-mahshar. Go and announce as the sun is going down that Allah has forgiven all of those who are present here on the plains of Arafat. Allah has forgiven all of them. Give them a testimony of this. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he says, O Nabi of Allah, Alana am tabi alana. Is this only for us? That this virtue, this forgiveness, is it only for us? Or is it for everyone who will come after? Nabi alayhi salam said, Lakum wa liman tabi'akum. For you and for anyone who presents themselves on the plains of Arafah, this is for them. The sun goes down, Allah has forgiven them. Allah has forgiven them. Sayyidina Umar said, Hada khayru deenina. Look how Allah has made our deen. Any person who presents themselves in Arafat, when that sun goes down, don't delay Hajj. Don't delay the opportunity to be there. Don't delay it. Everything else is secondary. The car, the house, the family, everything is second. The holiday, the entertainment, the coffee and the dessert, everything is secondary. Build the resistance to just be present just for that moment. That's it. And as the sun is going down, people are getting ready for departure to Muzdalifah. Nabi alayhi salam says, wait. Through this Hajj journey, there was one practice that Nabi alayhi salam would do. On his camel, Rasulullah would never be alone. There would always be someone seated behind him. Always someone seated. And throughout the journey, they would observe to see who is going to be given the sharaf and this honor. This is Arafat. the most momentous time of Hajj, day, sunset of Arafat. Who's going to be given this momentous occasion, this honor? So Nabi alayhi salam announces and tells the Sahaba, go and look for Usama. Go and look for Usama. Who's Usama? Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu. Usama bin Zayd had gone to make wudu and relieve himself, so he was a little delayed. He did not anticipate that he's going to be called for this. So he came. Everybody is waiting. The whole Hajj. And Usama comes from the distance. And as he's walking down, some people make this comment. People who are new to Islam. هذا الذي حبسنا ابتغاؤه. Were we delayed because of this? Listen to the statement carefully. They didn't know him. They didn't know who he was. Because of this, we were delayed. He goes, he sits on the back of the camel of Rasulullah. Usama bin Zayd is a child, by our definition, a child of color. His father, أولئك آبائي وأجدادي فجئنا بمثلهم. Sahaba are our forefathers. Bring anyone, just bring one, bring the whole world just to resemble one small family unit of Sahaba. They cannot even come remotely close. This is who they were. Who's Usama? He is the offspring of Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu anhu. Zayd bin Haritha is a white, fair-skinned Sahabi. Fair-skinned. He grew up in the company of Rasulullah. He was a slave. He's that person whom his family came to fetch him. He refused and wanted to stay with Nabi alayhi salam. Zayd bin Haritha. He got married to Zainab, Nabi alayhi salam. He was that Sahabi whom Nabi alayhi salam adopted him as a son. People started saying Zayd bin Muhammad. Quran said, don't say ud'uhum li'abaihim huwa aqsatu inda Allah. Attribute yourselves to your father, that is more just. Know that your father is the highest person. Nabi alayhi salam said that rida al-Rabb fi rida al-Walid wa sakhat al-Rabb fi sakhat al-Walid. That Allah's pleasure is when your father is pleased with you. And if your father is displeased with you, know that Allah is displeased with you. So Usama bin Zayd, his father is Zayd. And Nabi alayhi salam gets him married because he's so close to Rasulullah. Nabi alayhi salam gets him married to Zainab radiallahu anha, his first cousin. This marriage did not work. Quran mentions about this divorce and some little incidents about it. The only one single Sahabi's name in Quran, فَلَمَّا قَضَى زَيْدٌ مِّنْهَا وَطَرًا. The only Sahabi, one Sahabi's name in Quran, this Zayd in Quran. Who's Usama's mother? Ayman radiallahu anha. Ayman, her name was Barakah. Who was she? She was a dark-skinned African Abyssinian woman. Nabi alayhi salam, she reared and she raised Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halima Sa'diyah was in the early years. The person who reared Nabi alayhi salam was Ayman radiallahu anha, this Abyssinian woman. A woman of such height, such piety. Like last week, Islam came to Africa before it got to Medina. It got to Abyssinia before it got to Medina even. It's not foreign. It's not an Indian or an Arab religion that is there in Africa, and African religion is different. Ayman was from the first Muhajirat to Abyssinia. She was from that first group. She's from Abyssinia. She was living in Hijaz and then she migrates back to Abyssinia. En route, when she's going, she reaches one place and she runs out of water. The seerah books, the hadith is sahih, the riwayah on this, that buckets from the heavens came down of water and fed this woman water. Who? An Abyssinian slave woman. Nabi alayhi salam, Ayman, her husband, passed away and Zayd was divorced. Nabi alayhi salam says, Man sarrahu an yatazawwaja imra'atun min ahli al-jannah fazawwijhu Ayman. If anybody wants to get married to a woman of Jannah, then get married to Ayman. Zayd bin Haritha says, I will get married to her. He marries her. This union, a man whose name is in the Quran, this woman who's drinking the water of Jannah. What is the outcome of this offspring? When we want our children to be like Ali, like Hassan and Hussein, then we need to be like Ali and Fatima. That's what we need to demonstrate. We can't expect that we will display a particular part of the deen or not and expect our children will grow up like malaik and angels. They won't. Usama bin Zayd is born from this union. Nabi alayhi salam has such love for Zayd. This is his child. We often hear testimony that the grandchild is more beloved than your own son. Fathers, like they don't wait to see their sons, they don't see their grandkids. It's like they bypass their sons to the grandkids. Nabi alayhi salam has such love for Usama. In Bukhari, the hadith is there that in the masjid, we hear many times, on one knee used to be Hassan and one knee used to be Hussein, radiyallahu anhuma. And you know who used to be in the middle? Usama, the child of color. His features resembled his mother, not his father. This child of color was in the lap of Nabi alayhi salam. Rasulullah said, Man ahabbani falyuhibbu Usama. If you love me, you should love Usama. That's who you should love. Racism has no place in our deen. Artificial borders has no place in our deen. We have a choice. Either we go by the lines that others have drawn for us, the lies, the artificialness, or we ignore that. And we go by the lines which were given to us by Nabi alayhi salam, which is no lines. Innamal mu'minuna ikhwa. That's who you are. Usama bin Zayd radiyallahu anhu. He was a person of such nobility that the first, it requires to make the statement. The first army, when they went back from Hajj, Nabi alayhi salam appointed an army to go up north, to go and now start moving into Byzantine territory. The Amir of that army was Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr, Umar, senior Sahaba in that army. Who's made the Amir? Usama. That's his status. So he comes down and he sits at the back. And these new people to Islam make this comment. We need to check ourselves. That do we distinguish and still look at each other with the eye of nationality? Is that our reality? Allah has given us such an opportunity with all many negatives we might have around us here. But we have such an opportunity that we can build an ummah here more than you can from the country that you originated from. I often tell people, you want to see an ummah, come and see it in Australia, you will see an ummah. This is what it looks like. The child that grows up here, he doesn't distinguish between color, feature, or appearance or nationality. He doesn't know. It's zero. Knowing your lineage is one thing. Knowing your nationality, that's a different story. So Usama sits down on the camel and they make the statement. What did they mean? هَذَا الَّذِي حَبَسْنَاهُ ابْتِغَاؤُهُ. Now this has a context. What they meant by this is that this young black kid, that's what it meant. this African child, he's keeping the whole ummah behind in Arafat. But Nabi alayhi salam, everything was done with hikmah and wisdom. It wasn't like a first come, first serve, okay, you here, get to the back. There was a statement to be made here. That statement was the Nabi of Allah and this dark-skinned child to teach this ummah that it has no place by you. And it wasn't the first time. The conquest of Makkah, Nabi alayhi salam is doing all of that, as I mentioned, tawaf. After that tawaf, Ibn Kathir mentioned this in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. After that tawaf, the time of Salah came. Adhan is to be given in the Haram of Makkah. Bilal radiallahu anhu prepares for Adhan. Nabi alayhi salam said, Bilal, no, not here. You will do it on top of the Baytullah. You will stand on top of the Baytullah and give Adhan. So Bilal radiallahu anhu says, O Nabi of Allah, how am I going to get on top? How am I going to get on top? You're on the camel. Nabi alayhi salam says, Bilal, put your foot on my shoulder and climb on the Baytullah. Who's Bilal? Abyssinian. This ummah has nothing to show this lesson to this ummah. That you need to introspect. You need to reflect. You are all just the same. Racism, it's inherent. That's what it is. If we grow up like that, it's inherent. You cannot flip a switch. You have to make a conscious effort to rid yourself of this. And so they leave the plains of Arafat and they come to Muzdalifah. Last week, about this time, we stopped. I'll take 5 or 10 minutes. If anybody needs to leave, inshallah, you can. So they come to Muzdalifah. I might just be selective with the incidences here. So as they get to, is it very hot in here? Maybe I'm just feeling hot. It's hot?
Yeah, when I came, there's no air circulation.
Okay. Sorry to disturb you, just maybe it might be just. So they get to Muzdalifah. And as I mentioned, so as they get to Muzdalifah, Nabi alayhi salam, we know that part of the rituals of Muzdalifah is to collect pebbles to pelt the Jamarat. So Nabi alayhi salam instructs Sahaba that collect pebbles, not big ones, not small ones, not rocks, not your shoes, not anything. Just collect these little pebbles to pelt the Jamarat. It's not the shaitan. Shaitan's not there. It would have been convenient if he was. We know he's not here. Okay. It's just a ritual, symbolic of what we do. Like someone always, sometimes we make jokes out of these things. It's undermining deen, showing people running and throwing, shoes. And as much as it looks amusing, it's just undermining the deen. Nabi Islam tells Sahaba, just get these pebbles. And don't get more than this. Why? فَإِنَّ لَا غُلُوَ فِي الدِّينِ. There's no ghulu and exaggeration in our deen. Don't be holier than the deen and the religion. فَإِنَّمَا هَلَكَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. That those who got destroyed before you, there's many ways of destruction. Sometimes destruction will be because of external forces. The fitna, fasad, you'll be destroyed, your deen will be destroyed. But sometimes you will internally implode. When you become holier than the religion, you become too rigid. That's it. My way, that's the only way. There's no one else. Everyone else is on batil. Only I'm on haqq. It's me, my tariqah, my silsila, my shaykh, my madhab, the way I do it, the way I make salah. That's all it is. Everybody else is in Jahannam. You know the 72 sects? They're all there. I'm not with them. And that's anybody. And just go online, go anywhere, say, yeah, 72 sects. But we're not from there. This ghulu in deen, it's a topic for another day. That from the time of Sayyidina Ali, how things started imploding. Because people just like, it's me. Those who are like me, they look like me, we are the ones on haqq. If you're not associated, you're on the fringes. Cannot make salam to them, it's a bid'ah, Ahlul bid'ah. Those who know. So, Nabi Alayhi Salam told them, listen, in deen there's no ghulu. Where did the lesson come from? Just that pebble. Just that irmu. You take that pebble that you can fling. Don't make ghulu even in this pebble. Forgive everything. Forget everything else. Someone is making raf'ul yadayn, so let them be. That's what they're doing. Someone is not, and they follow a madhab, let them do what they're doing. Yes, we don't need more mujtahideen in the ummah. We have enough. They're there, they were gone. You don't need to make ijtihad in things which are already established. Now they're in the plains of Muzdalifah. Because some young people here, I'll mention this. So in Muzdalifah, the person who's given the honor of sitting at the back of Nabi alayhi salam is one Fadl bin Abbas radiallahu anhu. Fadl bin Abbas is the brother of Abdullah bin Abbas. His father was Abbas radiallahu anhu, Nabi alayhi salam's father's brother. So he's the first cousin of Rasulullah. At this time, he's a young man in his 20s. See, all of those who were given opportunity were all young people. But Fadl bin Abbas is a strikingly handsome young man. Now, there's two parts of this. I've read and I've seen various incidences of this. I'll mention both of them. So he's walking in Muzdalifah with Nabi alayhi salam. At the back, young man, handsome. And there's people and men and women in Muzdalifah. Women are uncovered to a degree. And his head is going from left to right. And he's looking everywhere. This is in the books of Hadith. So his father, Abbas, is also there. And he tells Nabi alayhi salam that, just look at your nephew, what he's up to. He's looking all over. So Nabi alayhi salam grabbed him by the chin. He said, Fadl, today it's a very big day, Muzdalifah. Man malaka sam'ahu wa basarahu wa lisanahu ghufira lahu. If you control your eyes and your ears and your tongue today, Allah will forgive you. Look after your eyes. Later on in Mina, there's another incident that transpired. He's also sitting behind Nabi alayhi salam. Young man, handsome. One young girl comes. She's bringing her father. She had one question on Hajj she wanted to ask. So she asked the question. She was attractive. He's a handsome man. Like, listen, fathers, it's a fitrah of a young man, a young woman, that this is going to happen. Our children are not Jibreel. They were not designed, they're not meant to be that. They're not some textbook ideal that you wish they were. So he's sitting behind Rasulullah. She's in front. She's asking the question, but she's looking at him. And he's looking at her. And he's looking, and they're looking at each other. Imagine Rasulullah in between. And they're looking at each other. Nabi alayhi salam then says, Ra'aytu shabban wa shabbatan, that I saw one young, not even directly. He didn't even address this matter directly. He said, I saw one young man, one young woman, and between them, shaitan came. Between them, shaitan is influencing them. The youth of this ummah, along with the women, along with those of the color, skin color, different tone, darker tones, along with them in Hajjatul Wada, the lesson of the youth was given to this ummah. In this journey of 5 days, not the biggest sheikh, not Abu Bakr, not Umar, not Uthman, who was seated behind, the young people whom we don't want to, I don't mean this masjid or any masjid, but those whom they make noise at the masjid. We don't want them here because they stand outside, because they don't do the ibadah the way it's supposed to be done. because they are too playful, too mischievous. There's too many wrong that they do. Those young people, in the biggest amal, nothing bigger than the Hajj of Nabi alayhi salam, they there. And what they doing in that, they're doing what young people do. That's what they're doing. And Nabi alayhi salam still kept him and give the lesson to the ummah that this is how you treat the youth of this ummah. And today, young people are maligned. They cast aside. Imagine what it's like to be a young person in this day and age with exposure to the fitna that we have. Can you imagine the test and the trial? A young person today who is resilient against the haram online, just to resist that haram, you will be a wali of Allah. Just resist that haram, not 10,000 rak'at of salah in Quran. Just resist the haram and do the basic fundamentals of deen, and you will be the wali and become a friend of Allah in this era, in this time. That's all it is. That's all it takes. Potential. This, Allah has given the youth of this ummah potential. Nabi alayhi salam recognized that. And he put this in front to the ummah in this journey. Nonetheless, the days of Mina pass. I have to leave out some things because of time. Nabi alayhi salam, the first day of Mina, more is given in the khutbah in Mina. More is said in the second day of the khutbah. And the third day. And finally, the third day of Mina arrives. And now, the time to come out of Ihram arrives, obviously before that, on the first day of Mina, after pelting, etc., all of this. And Nabi alayhi salam, his hair is to be cut. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam calls Yazid ibn Abdullah al-Adawi radiyallahu anhu. The Sahabi was there present, and he had a blade in his hand, a razor. And Nabi alayhi salam calls him, and he says to him, come and cut my hair. And Nabi alayhi salam is directing him, and he says, and as he's beginning to cut, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells him, like, aren't you fearful that you got a blade and you're standing over the head of the Rasul of Allah? Nabi alayhi salam just tells him in jest this, like, you need a load of courage to do this. He said, Innaha la ni'matun min Allah. Allah gave me the opportunity to shave the head of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This hair falls down. It falls down in one clump. Nabi alayhi salam calls the father of Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu. He gathers the hair and he gives him all of this hair. He says, you keep this hair by you. The hair of Nabi alayhi salam, on several occasions, Sahaba, like the water, like touching the body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would fight even to take a strand of hair. In the books of Tariq, it is written, after Umratul Qada, Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, they were shaving the hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And because this was Umratul Qada, or it was Bay'atul Ridwan in Hudaybiyah, the Sahaba rushed and they all started taking the hair that was falling. And many of them took. Some Sahabiyat say that we took this hair and we placed it in water bowls in our home. That water and those water skins never ran out of water, just because of the presence of one strand of the hair of Nabi alayhi salam. Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu said, on that occasion I was present there. I took one strand of hair. This strand of hair I used to keep in my helmet in every battle. He says, I'm convinced, Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu said, that the victory that Allah gave to me was not anything except the presence of that one strand of hair of Nabi alayhi salam. Allah gave us victory in every battle. In the battle of Yarmouk, in the time of Sayyidina Umar, in the 15th year of Hijri, when they were sent north and Hiraqal and his army were coming down. And Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, today, the battle of Yarmouk was so decisive and divisive, so decisive, that we still, what's happening in the Middle East today, we still feel the repercussions of Khalid's victory in Yarmouk. So severe was the battle that Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, his helmet was split in two. This helmet that had that strand of hair. After the battle of Yarmouk, the Muslims were victorious. 3,000 Sahaba became shaheed in this battle. He sent Sahaba and sent people around the battlefield, go and look for this helmet. Go and look for this helmet, because nobody knew until that moment. Then why is Khalid sending everybody around to go and look for this helmet? Purely because it contained this one strand of hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam shaved his hair. The days of Mina passed, the days of Hajj finished, and now they come back on the morning of the 13th or the 14th. They come back to Makkah Mukarramah just at the time before Fajr Salah. They enter the Haram. Nabi alayhi salam leads the Fajr Salah, what was to be the last Fajr Salah in Makkah Mukarramah. Nabi alayhi salam's presence, and the Haram is sounding with the melodious voice of Nabi alayhi salam. وَالطُّورِ وَكِتَابٍ مَسْطُورٍ فِي رَقٍّ مَنْشُورٍ. Imagine Nabi alayhi salam reading Quran in the Haram. You know, those who have been for Hajj, when you finish Hajj and you come back to Makkah, there's a feeling that you experience like you cannot put in words. Everybody has done these rituals. You finish Hajj, it's a mission achieved, an objective of life that you have achieved, and you come back and there's a level of sanctity and tranquility that you can't explain. The world looks different, the sky looks different, the sounds are different. And imagine you listening to the Fajr of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَالطُّورِ وَكِتَابٍ مَسْطُورٍ. Fajr finishes, Nabi alayhi salam turns around, Tawaf al-Wada is made, and it's at this time that they depart from Makkah Mukarramah. Rasulullah sallallahu never sets foot back in Makkah Mukarramah. They make the journey back to Madinah. This is Dhul Hijjah, Muharram, Safar, Rabi'ul Awwal. Less than 3 months later, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam leaves this transitory world. The eye is revealed. Just before that, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. On the plains of Arafat, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. The seal came there. The deen is complete. It needs nothing more added to it. And the last verse to be revealed, Surah Baqarah, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. That be fearful on that day that you will return to Allah. ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam leaves this transitory world. And that is a summary of some elements of the Hajj of Nabi alayhi salam. There was one last incident that transpired en route back to Madinah Munawwarah. That incident, we are feeling the repercussions of it still in the Muslim world, and that is the incident that transpired famously at Ghadir Khum, when Nabi alayhi salam made the statement, Man kana aliyun, man kuntu mawlahu fa aliyun mawlahu. That whoever so of I am a mawla, then Ali is a mawla of this person. That statement was uttered en route in this place called Ghadir Khum, en route back to Madinah Munawwarah. The repercussions of that still reverberating around the Muslim world. We had discussion about who was meant to be the next Khalifa. Was this statement on this occasion an endorsement of Sayyidina Ali to be the next Khalifa, or indeed was it Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu? Of course, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and our unapologetic position on this matter is Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, by unanimity and ijma' of Sahaba, was appointed as the next Khalifa, and that remains the position of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq understanding. Maybe today we'll end with a little short dua, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله وإليك يرجع الأمر كله لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك اللهم صل على محمد كلما ذكره الذاكرون وصل على محمد كلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. O Allah, we beseech and we ask you to forgive our sins, O Allah, the transgressions in these 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. O Allah, we beseech and we ask you to forgive us, O Allah. O Allah, whatever we heard, whatever we learned, O Allah, through this Hajj of Nabi alayhi salam, grant us tawfiq, the ability, O Allah, that we practice, and O Allah, We beseech and we ask you, make us from the Hujjaj, make us from the visitors to your home, O Allah. O Allah, attach our hearts to the Baytullah, attach our hearts to Madinah Munawwara, attach our hearts to Nabi alayhi salam, attach our hearts to Sahaba. O Allah, we beseech and we ask you, make us embodiments of good externally, internally, O Allah. O Allah, we acknowledge our weaknesses, our deficiencies, our shortcomings, O Allah. O Allah, we are weak servants of yours, but we just try, O Allah, accept from us. Grant us your ma'rifah, your recognition, O Allah. Be kind to us, O Allah. O Allah, shower your mercy and rahmah on us. O Allah, take us from this world with iman. Fill our qabrs with nur. Resurrect us with iman, O Allah. Enter us into Jannatul Firdaus without reckoning. Those of us who are present who have not been to the Haramain, O Allah, you open the means in the Islam to go to Makkah and Medina, O Allah. Those who have not been for Hajj, take us for Hajj, O Allah. Those who have not been for Umrah, O Allah, take us for Umrah. Those who have been, O Allah, Allah, take them over and over, O Allah. We beseech you, we ask you, accept us and our families, all those who are present here, O Allah, those who have organized this, those who are making khidmah in the masjid, those who present themselves in this masjid. Allah, accept from all of us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.